Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion podcast. And today we have a very special guest again. It's a fellow entrepreneur and dear friend, Pauliina Rasi. Pauliina is a communications consultant and copywriter for projects and businesses with mighty missions. Pauliina has made it her own mission to empower those small businesses to turn their content into clients and impressions into impact. With a background in journalism, corporate communications, and PR, she is a passionate writer who uses her love for words to help others communicate what they do and why. When not typing on her laptop 75 words a minute, she can be found on the slopes of the Swiss Alps trying to keep up with her husband and 7-year-old pace. Thank you for being here, Pauliina. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great and I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah. So, Pauliina, you started out as a journalist a few years ago. How did you know that? Why did you choose that career? Let's put it that way.
Well, I guess I've always followed my passion, like your podcast says, because for me, writing has always been my big passion. I've always found great comfort and inspiration in learning new things, in diving into that research, and then turning my thinking into writing, putting words to it and explaining that way to others what I've learned and how I'm viewing that thing. So what really guided me there was my passion for writing and my passion to learn new things. But actually, when I set out to that career, I was hoping to become a foreign correspondent. That was kind of my dream job back then, maybe work in Paris. But actually, I don't think I fell that far from that dream, because now I'm working in French-speaking Switzerland, and even though I'm not a foreign correspondent, there are still a lot of same elements included.
Yeah, and like you said, you're working out from Switzerland, but you're originally from Finland, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What made you make this move to Switzerland?
Well, that's an interesting story in and of itself. I met my husband, who has also roots in Finland, but who already lived in Geneva. Because as a joke, with a friend, we came up with a plan to find me a Swiss husband. And then that's how I found my, Swiss and Finnish husband, but that's a longer story. But it really started out as a joke, but then I followed him after a few years of long distance. I followed him here, and now it's been 11 years and we are still here.
Yeah, that's what we call the power of love, Pauliina.
yeah, probably.
Yeah. So, did you already had some French lessons in Finland at school, or did you have to learn the language all by yourself?
I learned some basics at school, so I had done the basics at high school, but also had forgotten most of it. So I was able to order my meal at the restaurant when I arrived and do maybe some very simple phone calls, but that was pretty much the extent of it. When I arrived, I took intensive French courses for a few months to really level up my French skills, and then later I got a job in a French-speaking communications agency in corporate communications and PR. So then that was really my other French language school. I really learned a lot during those years.
Yeah, nice. And your English is perfect as well. So when you're talking about communication, do you notice that it's different when you're communicating in Finnish or in French or in English?
It's completely different. That's been one of my biggest lessons as well, because, for example, in Finland and in the Scandinavian countries in general, we often lead with substance. We lead with message. What you say is the most important thing. And then again, in French, it's almost the opposite. You need all the formula, you need all the politesse, as we say in French. You need to have your madame and monsieur in place and your s'il vous plaît. And I'm exaggerating here a little bit, but it's almost more important than what you put in between, because what you put in between, it can be figured out from the context, but then you really need to have your formulas in place, and you need to know how to address different people. So it is different, and the language and the culture, it's of course a huge question, and they are very very tightly linked to one another. So the cultural background, it's of course something that's very important to take into consideration in communications. But also I find that sometimes it helps to come from the outside, because maybe you question some things that a native speaker wouldn't, and I'm also capable of expressing things in a way that makes them understandable and easily reachable for non-native audiences as well, which many English and French-speaking brands have. So it can also be an asset to look at things from an outsider's perspective.
Nice. I actually had a colleague that was from Finland, but he's already lived in the Netherlands for several years. And he said to me once that when he still has family in Finland, and when he goes for the holidays there, and they're talking about the work he's doing, he has to explain it in English because he has never learned the Finnish words. And that startled me a little bit, because I think, it's your mother language, but it's amazing that when you move to another country, and you start working there, that there are certain words in the new language that you haven't learned in your mother language. It surprised me a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely relate, because there are indeed, when I speak about my work, sometimes I'm struggling to explain it in Finnish, because I've never done this exact thing in Finnish before. My job in Finland was different. And sometimes I also come across that when I speak about my daughter, who is now 7, and I use some words that related to her development or the pediatrician system we have in Switzerland. And suddenly it's not something I would say in Finnish, because the system there is completely different. And I end up using this weird mix of Finnish and English and French in one sentence.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, Pauliina. So, talking about your current job, you're passionate about helping small businesses, with mighty missions to get the story across, and not only how, but also the why. What do you think is important for communicating the why of a company?
Well, there are several reasons why it can be very powerful and very important. First of all, when you have that mission, you have the vision of a better world, you know what you want to change through your own company. Communicating that will help people to connect with you, to relate with you and your brand, because it can mean more for them than just buying a service or buying a product. So it can really help you rally the crowds in a way, like really align people behind your brand and behind your idea. So it's a very easy way to connect with people. But secondly, from a little bit of a different perspective, it can also help you stand out, because you are working as a coach yourself, and I'm sure there are tons of coaches around you, but who aren't necessarily doing the same thing. But communicating your vision and how you see things, it can help you stand out from that crowd of seemingly similar people who are doing on the surface the same thing that you are. So then it can help you stand out and get your message across more powerfully. And then finally, as a third thing, of course, being very aligned on your mission and vision and values, it helps you gain a lot of clarity and a lot of ease in your business and making those choices on the background.
Yeah. So I also noticed, Pauliina, that you took a conscious break of 2 years for your motherhood before you started your own company. How did that? What's your experience with that? With being a full-time mother for that period of time?
It was amazing, challenging, but amazing. I was just transitioning from the agency job when I got my daughter, and it was also a natural break to take a moment to reflect what I want to do next, because I didn't have a job to go back to anyway. So of course, there's always these happenstance or circumstantial factors that weigh in. But then I loved being there for my daughter full time for a year and a half, 2 years, because it's a huge huge change as well, and it changes your priorities. I know you have two kids yourself, so you probably have some first-hand experience about when you become a parent. It does change how you view things, and for me it was a great moment to reflect on how I want to make all those different pieces fit: motherhood, professional, ambitious, because it was clear to me on the other hand that I do want to keep working. It was clear from the get-go that I couldn't stay at home for 18 years. It was just not, that would have made me or anybody in our family happy.
Yeah.
But having that flexibility, it was a good moment to reflect and think about how those different pieces fit in. And also it gave me the courage to pursue this entrepreneurial path, because I had always had this nagging voice in my head that said, you want to try, you need to try this, you would love working on your own. But it was never the right time, and there was always a reason to do this and that first. And I'm sure you hear this a lot from others as well.
Yeah.
But it gave me, going through that huge transition of becoming a mother, it gave me the courage to pursue the dreams. And it also helped me develop my own methodology a little bit, because I work a lot with small entrepreneurs, small business owners, who often start on the side. They don't always necessarily go full in, but they start as a side gig. They start a side hustle. And it helped me see how that works in reality, and help me develop my methodology in a way that it supports entrepreneurs in different stages, whether you are really ready to scale and automate, or whether you're really just starting out something part-time, and adapt my advice and my guidance to those different situations as well.
Yeah. And I actually love the fact that I sometimes say that things are meant to be, and you're in PR, and your company is also PR, meaning Pauliina Rasi.
Yeah, that's really funny.
Yeah, so it probably was meant to be that you went in the communications, Pauliina.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, well, my daughter's initials are ER, so maybe she'll become a trauma surgeon one day or something like that.
Yeah. Nice. So, Pauliina, the world is a bit changing right now, especially when I'm talking about ChatGPT and all the AI systems. I saw this video recently from Vishen Lakhiani, the founder of Mind Valley, and he's talking about how this is going to disrupt the industry and also the writing industry. And as an entrepreneur, it's also important to stay up with the latest changes in your area of work. So how do you look again towards ChatGPT? Have you already dived into it, used it, or?
I have tried it out a little bit, as well as some other AI writing tools that have really been popping up recently. And my approach is twofold, or my sentiments are maybe a little bit twofold. On the one hand, I think they can be great tools in getting you unstuck or speeding up your writing process, especially for those who don't love writing or who aren't natural writers. I know it can take a lot of time to put together an article or a social media post, and relying on tools like ChatGPT or other AI enhanced writing tools, it can really help you structure your thinking, get some new ideas, and save a lot of time, because, well, who has too much time? I've never met an entrepreneur who has too much time in their hands.
Yeah, exactly.
But then what worries me, especially maybe it comes from my background as journalist as well, is that ChatGPT, for example, it doesn't have any attachment to truth. It can use all kinds of materials that are being fed to it, whether they are true or not. So you never actually really know how or whether the information you are being given has been fact-checked, or what are the sources. And since you don't know the sources, you can't go to your sources and check if they are reliable. Where does the information come from? So that is really one big hurdle to overcome, is really how you do that fact-checking afterwards. What are your own routines and systems to ensure that the information that you are then sharing is actually unbiased, that it reflects your values, and that it reflects correct sources? So that is something I would flag out for anyone who is interested in venturing in ChatGPT and other solutions like that.
Yeah, that's some great advice indeed, Pauliina. And I tried it once myself as well a few weeks ago because a connection of mine, he checked his own name, so who is, and then his name, and he got quite a nice summary of him. So I thought I tried myself as well, and it said, "Who is Aaron Wills?" And it didn't know me. So
Oh,
I won't say I got a bit annoyed, but I said, "Okay, well." And then I said, "Well, check Google, right?" And then it said, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a direct connection to the internet." So I was very amazed about it. But um, I heard, and it's true what you say. It's like a collective intelligence, but the fact checking isn't there. The resources isn't. It's the same with. I would almost say with Wikipedia. People can adjust the information, edit, and it's a common source of information, but it isn't necessarily the truth. There's no resource mentioning in there.
exactly. And you can end up distributing misinformation just, well, by omission, actually, if you pick up a bias or a piece of misinformation from ChatGPT.
Yeah, and I think that the key is using it correctly, right?
Absolutely,
For instance,
definitely.
if you have your own article written, you can use ChatGPT to optimize it. To say, summarize it or check it or give some examples of this. And so he
Definitely.
mentioned something, Vision. I mean, he mentioned about prompt engineering, right? The ability to ask the right questions or give the right commands to ChatGPT, so you can use it to your advantage.
Exactly. You can use it if you have an idea for an article, for example. You can use it to give you some ideas of questions that people might be asking. You can use, like I said, you can use it to optimize your article. I haven't tried this, but I think you could use it to repurpose. If you have something like, please, you have an article, please give me a LinkedIn post about that, or something like that, that can really speed your process and get you unstuck.
Yeah, nice. So, Pauliina, if you're talking about your own business, about the PR, communicating, writing, what do you love the most about it? Is it the strategic part with your clients, or is it actually the writing itself, or training them how to write it? What do you love the most about it?
I love the mix of it, actually. I got into this because of my love for writing, because I wanted to build a freelance writing business for myself, because that was what I loved to do. And I just wanted to do it in a more flexible context, having a family and my daughter being young and everything.
Yeah.
But then when I started speaking with small businesses and speaking with other business owners, I developed these other things around that, because I saw that there's a need for this strategy consultation. There's need for this, well, I don't do coaching, but this accompanying entrepreneurs on their communications and content marketing journey. So I've grown to love the mix of it, having some writing projects and having days when I can just dive into the world of words and writing and just do that. But also I love empowering other small business owners, figuring out their way in this jungle that is content marketing and communications. Because especially with small businesses, I've seen that just small nudges in the right direction make a huge difference. And that's why I love working with small businesses, because sometimes just a simple tip like, hey, try ChatGPT to generate some ideas, or try this channel, or simplify this process for yourself, it can really help them fly and take off. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And it's indeed, we had this chats before that. I also sometimes I have this I won't say write a blockage, but sometimes I want to post, I've set this goal of about posting 3 times a week on LinkedIn. And sometimes I don't have inspiration and I just write about that. So
Exactly.
can you relate to that you don't have inspiration, you're struggling putting a post, and sometimes I just start writing and it comes naturally. How's that for you? And there's my post.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to overcome that block, because often that block comes from us not wanting to do what's right in front of us. Like you, I think it's genius how you just grab that feeling and write about that. And I've also noticed that posts like that, they tend to perform super well because people can relate. It really comes from your heart and where you are right at this moment. So it can be very, very powerful.
Yeah. I was at a business event last week about LinkedIn, and I heard this very interesting story of somebody that her post went viral, and she said that she figured out why. Right? Of course, she had a very attracting title, compelling story, but what she also said was the moment she wrote it, she didn't look at the time of posting or whatever, but she was very high on energy. She had this feeling, that this story needs to come out, and she wrote it and she posted it, and I think she got like 800,000 views on it. Very
That's amazing.
big engagement. And her thought was that this energy that was behind it was a very big driver of that post. And I thought it was very interesting because you can have all the information about the algorithm that's behind it. You can have a great compelling story, but even then, and you try to get interactions from the readers, right? But there's no guarantee that it will get some big engagement. And I thought
Absolutely.
this idea about the energy that's behind it, and also what she's letting go, right? Don't have any expectations of the post and stuff like that. I'm already past that, I don't have any expectation. I just want to inspire my audience. But I thought about having this energy behind it. It was a very interesting concept. What are your thoughts about that, Pauliina?
Well, that's very intriguing. And I do think that there's always a bit of magic when you really make a big impact with a post or something that you share. Of course, we often look at the reach and the impressions, but they are just a proxy to measure what we really want to do, which is to impact, to spread the word about what we believe in and what we believe is right. And there is indeed always that bit of magic that kind of escapes logic almost. But there's probably 95% of that is just hard work, showing up consistently, being very consistent with your message, being on the platform for a while, because that probably wasn't the first thing she ever did there. But then there is always that special element that I also don't think that any AI tools can produce. So that's where you really need that personal magic. It can be your energy. Sometimes you just tap into something that you sense has been in the air, but you're not maybe fully able to put your finger on it or express it in words, but you just kind of tap into that. And then it can be energy. Some people call it luck, but I definitely think, and I've seen that this kind of having your mind in the right place and having the energy flowing, having the creative energy flowing, that's super important. And I liked what you brought up about kind of detaching yourself from the outcome. Like, okay, whatever comes, if you try to reach 1 million views, it might not happen, but you just focus on the post, you share what you want to share, what you think is important, and you let it fly. And sometimes it takes off, sometimes it doesn't, but it almost doesn't matter in a way when you're in that space.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you don't need to reach 1 million readers or whatever, you just need to reach the right people that are meant to
Exactly.
work with you.
Exactly. And that's why I also sometimes talk about digital minimalism, which is a concept I've borrowed from Cal Newport. So it's not my own word, but the idea is to really be very mindful with how you consume digital media, digital services. And sometimes when I speak about that, people are like, but you work in digital marketing. Wouldn't you want people to use more of those services? I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I don't want 1 million readers who just kind of browse through my stuff. I'm happy if one person really reads it and implements it and gets some results out of it. That means a lot more for me.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that indeed. So, Pauliina, when I started out my entrepreneurial journey almost 8 years ago, there were all these talks about you have to have like 7 contact moments with a prospect before he or she might become a client. And you shouldn't, every post you're making shouldn't be about your offering, just have like 5-6 posts about information, inspiration, whatever, and then you can give a commercial offer to your clients, right? But I also noticed that nowadays it's also, well, at least that's how I see it, to share personal information. Not only inspire the audience, but also tell people who's the person behind it, right? What's your view on that?
I totally agree with what you say, and especially when you work in the service industry. It applies to products as well to some extent, but especially when you are part of the delivery, when you are the one doing the coaching or consulting or writing, your personality becomes more and more important. And social media platforms, different digital marketing platforms, they provide a great venue to highlight your personality and share a little bit more about who you are. It's very human, actually. Our brains are wired for that human connection. Who is this person? Do I like him? Do I trust him? And you can build that know, like, and trust, like we often say in the marketing world, through your content. And there it's very, very important to share a little bit more about who you are as a person, what your values are. We come back to the question of your vision, your mission, your why, like what we talked about in the beginning. And I know that some people don't like this approach. They talk about Instagramification of LinkedIn, for example, like LinkedIn has become the next Instagram where you just have to share your day and share your videos. I wouldn't maybe go to those lengths with Instagram, LinkedIn especially. But yes, it's definitely a strength if you can share a little bit of who you are as a person, even every now and then. And after all, it's all about the balance. You don't need to be there every day with, hey, look at my smoothie or look at my holiday selfies, but just sharing a little bit who is the person behind and what makes you special, what makes you stand out. And sometimes doing something funny and maybe a little bit random. I've seen recently that some of my best performers have been these a little bit random ideas. Like I just wrote about how content marketing is like baking a sponge cake, and it resonated very well with people. So sometimes just adding a little bit of something a little bit fun and light there can be one way to infuse a little bit of your personality to the game.
Yeah, nice. So you already mentioned LinkedIn and Instagram, and as being a professional communicator, social media can't be, you need social media to reach your audience, right? What makes you decide which channel to use?
It all comes down to your audience. It can be indeed a very powerful way to connect with people where they are already hanging out. I'm not saying that any social media platform is a must necessarily, but for most entrepreneurs, it will be a very handy way to reach an audience on a platform that they are already accustomed to using. That's easy for them. But how to choose, it really depends on where your audience does hang out. Many people say that Facebook is dead, and it might be for many brands, but then again, certain demographics are very active there. And for certain kinds of businesses, it works very well. LinkedIn seems to be on a rise, especially for professionals or anyone, even if you have a B2C business, but your audience hangs out there, like let's say Pilates lessons for professionals who are stuck behind their laptops all day. So really looking at those questions is key. Asking if you have to, if you don't know, if you're just starting out, or if what you've been working on isn't working out anymore. Just asking, quizzing people, testing out different things. And finally, it's super important not to take too much on your plate, because there are countless opportunities. You could be everywhere, but then you wouldn't be doing anything else. So then it's very important, especially for small businesses and small teams, early stage teams, to be very mindful when they are making these choices.
Yeah, I think, and I think you're absolutely right on first of all, look where your ideal clients are located, right? What are they using, and see if you can be on those channels as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
There are also a lot of new channels. I still remember that few years ago, I think it is already, that Clubhouse was very hot. Yeah, you needed to be in Clubhouse. Clubhouse. It was invitation only. There was this very big thing of the fear of missing out, right? Because if you didn't, there were no recordings. You couldn't review it anymore. You know, you had to be there to get the information. It was very hot for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, but nowadays I don't hear anybody about it, right?
Yeah, me neither. It's really quieted down.
Yeah, but I also see that like the event I was on last week, that some people also do TikTok videos, and I think, you know, it's not for me. You know, TikTok, making videos, doing some playbacking on it or dancing or stuff like that. It's totally not like me. But somehow they're doing great on that. You know, in my first season, I had a lady that was doing TikTok videos for the plants and cacti she sold on the internet, and she had a great following. I think she went from a few views to like maybe have 700,000 subscribers and counting, and that's amazing. Another guest of my podcast, he has become big on YouTube, right? And it's all those, like you said, all those choices to make, whether or not it's working for you. And I also feel you need to be comfortable yourself with it.
Definitely, definitely. You need to also go. I often encourage my clients and my network to go with their gut. So if there's something that your body is really telling you and your intuition is telling you to try out, go ahead and try it out. And sometimes it is a little bit of those odd bedfellows that work the best. When you mentioned TikTok, for example, I've occasionally seen like nonprofit organizations or government agencies to host these TikTok hours or doing short educational videos there. And even though it's a little bit different than the maybe standard content there, or especially because of that, it can work super well. So sometimes getting ahead of a curve and doing things a little bit differently can work super well as well. But like you say, play to your strengths. If you really hate talking on video, maybe don't go to YouTube, or do stuff that's voiceover, or that you don't have to show your face on if that's really not what you like to do. But it's always a good idea to play around and maybe have a little bit of a time budget for this kind of crazy project that might pan out in the end, just like maybe a couple of hours or half a day per month to try out something completely different.
Yeah, indeed, and that's great advice as well, Pauliina. So you already mentioned that a lot of people think that Facebook might be dead, you know, especially talking about getting business out of it, or maybe it's on its return. However, people are still they're still into their newsletters and email lists, right? So what's your opinion on that? Because that's even older than Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Old, it doesn't always mean it's bad. Sometimes
No.
old tricks do work.
Oh yeah, the older I am, the better I get. So
Exactly, me too, exactly. But there are two things that make email marketing still quite unique. One is that, well, first of all, you own your list. So you're not at the mercy of any third-party platform. On Facebook, what, for example, has made it complicated for many businesses over the last years has been the change of Facebook algorithms, Instagram algorithms, the paid ads that are overriding organic content. But you always own your list. So anything that any big social media companies do, it won't affect how you can connect with your email list. So you have a lot of control over that. And secondly, email offers you a different touch point, because on social media, things move super fast. So people might see your article, but if they are not in the right mood at that exact second, they might lose it, they might save it, but whoever comes back to your saved items, like I never have time, I save stuff, but I never come back to that, or very rarely. But on email, you can catch people when they have maybe a little bit more attention, when they aren't on their social media, when they have maybe a little bit more time to read your stuff. So that can be another slightly different touch point. And finally, you can, of course, think about that creatively. Are there other channels you're not using? Is there a way how you could catch people when they aren't expecting that, or when they aren't bombarded with all the different messages? Could you send out your content at different times? Could you collaborate with other organizations? Or could you, I love these creative marketing ideas when you kind of come in through the side door a little bit, like you combine things that don't match on the surface, but where actually the needs of your audience meet. So think about that creatively.
Yeah, nice. And it's actually that I have always been against newsletters and email, right? Because I never knew what to put in a newsletter, because I thought, I'm already putting stuff in on the social media, right? Posting things, and it will only be a repetition of what I'm already posting there, and who will ever read it, right? And I already got a lot of email myself, so I thought I don't want to overload people with newsletters. But it wasn't until LinkedIn offered the opportunity of creating a newsletter that it really got me interested, right? Because like you said, if you're just doing a post on LinkedIn, it's up to the algorithm who sees it, right? And you can even have like thousands of followers, but they won't all see your post, because it might be just 10 or 100 or whatever, right? A fraction of your followers or connections. But with a newsletter, each subscriber to your newsletter gets a notification, and they're even getting an email that there's a new newsletter alive. So you get more visibility with your newsletter. And
exactly.
it's what you said, people don't always see your post. So if you can put it in a newsletter, people are more likely to see it and benefit from it, because you're doing it to inspire them, right?
Definitely. And what is genius about your newsletter is that you actually repurpose content that you have out anyway by sending compilations of your latest podcast episodes and that kind of thing. So you don't necessarily even need new content. You are just putting it out in a new format so it can reach more people.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm afraid we can talk for hours on those subjects, because they're very inspiring, and I love writing myself as well. So, but we also have to think about the audience. We don't want to bore them with our conversation, of course. If there's one tip you would like to share with the audience, whether it's about writing content or being an entrepreneur, that's totally different ball game, I would almost say. What's one tip or little piece of advice or wisdom you would like to share with them?
I would say start where you are, but have high ambitions for where you want to go. And in the middle, be realistic about when that can happen. And what I mean with that is that, especially when you're starting a new business, or if you're getting to the digital world, let's say you've had a business for a while, but you want to use the digital tools to market it, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like you're not ready. It can feel like you will never get the 1 million subscribers that somebody else has. But you do need to start where you are, wherever that is, and start with small steps, but aim high, because digital tools, digital platforms, digital businesses, they have so much potential. It might take time to get there. That's where the realism piece come in. So just getting to LinkedIn today, it won't mean that 3 months from now you will have a profitable 6-figure business out of that. So give yourself time and be realistic about the work it will take, about the time it will take. But when you start now, you have all the possibilities of reaching really, really amazing heights in a few years' time.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess adding to that, you might have already mentioned implicitly, be consistent.
Definitely,
Right?
definitely,
Because
exactly.
it will take time, and you will never know when it takes off, right?
Exactly, and you don't completely have control over that timeline. But what you have control over is the work that you put in, whether it's 3 posts per week, or if it's just 1 post to start with, or whether your goal is to reach 10,000 followers or 1 million followers. Wherever you are, it's consistency that will pay off.
Yeah, nice. So, Pauliina, thank you for sharing your information. I know you put a lot of interesting, great content on LinkedIn as well. I love the fact that you have this monthly gatherings of people that are struggling with creating content, and you just offer them like an hour of dedicated time to work on their content, right? I love that concept. If people want to know more about you, get in touch with you, how can they do that?
Well, LinkedIn is the place where I hang out quite a lot. So you can find me there through Pauliina Rasi. When you put 2 I's in Pauliina, that should pop up quite easily. And indeed, if you work on your own content, please join me and other creative entrepreneurs in Content Circle. We meet every second Tuesday of a month, and we stay together for 90 minutes to create quality content for our businesses. And through LinkedIn, you can also find my newsletter and updates about Content Circle. I have a bi-weekly newsletter called Content Creators Corner, where I share more tips and inspiration, tested strategies for anyone who wants to create more quality content with confidence.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Pauliina. And what you said, Pauliina with 2 eyes, it shouldn't be hard to find.
Exactly. And if you Google for Pauliina with 2 eyes, you'll land on my blog, so you can find all the resources there anyway.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Pauliina, for joining me in this wonderful podcast. I really had a great time with you, having a great conversation. We'll definitely stay in touch. We can't lose each other.
Thank you for having me. It's been such a pleasure.